Hello, in this lesson we're going to be looking at typography and how to create typography within Illustrator. Typography works very similarly to, working with basic shapes, especially when you create outlines and the type begins to behave like a vector or any other shape within the program. So for example, to begin to create type in Illustrator, you want to select the type tool, and then you can just kind of simply click within your composition. First, I'm just going to go ahead quickly and create a page here in which to work from. I'm just going to make sure that that's 8 by 8 inches, and I'm just going to place that within my printable page. And then again, I'm going to select my type tool here, and I'm going to go ahead and just create a word. It's a little bit small here, so I can actually hold down the Shift key and sort of like expand the size of that type. And I'd say that the best way to change the size of your type point size is to up under the character palette, within the program, you'll see that you have your character tab, your paragraph tab, and your open type tab. We'll talk a little bit more about each of those features, but in the character palette is where you can obviously change your font, and so I'm just going to change that to Optima, or perhaps a typeface that might be more applicable to the first few lessons is Helvetica. So just go ahead and select Helvetica. And so with the type tool, you'll notice that when you create type, and you'll see that this type is actually quite large right now, but I can increase or decrease the size of the type size by increasing or decreasing the size through the character palette. And so when I select my type with the direct selection tool, you'll notice that, or with the selection tool, you'll notice that I can easily move it around the page, and that's very similar to how we manage shapes and elements within the printable page in Adobe Illustrator. So you'll also notice that there's a line. You'll see two things. First is a bounding box around the perimeter of the type, which means that you can, it's sort of like a free transformation where you can change the scale of the type, or if you just outside of the bounding box, you can also kind of rotate the type so it behaves very similarly to any shape that you create and transform within the program. The only difference between basic shapes and type is this line that you see at the bottom of the baseline of the type. So that means that's an indication that you've created that type with the type tool, and you can actually manipulate those letters by highlighting them with the type tool. For example, I could just simply, change the name or the behavior or the word to change very quickly, because I have obviously it's manipulable, editable typography, right? So I can easily change that very quickly by just highlighting either a character or the entire word, and change it very very quickly on my within my composition. And again, conversely, that I can change the width and the scale in either by decreasing or increasing the size very easily to my preferences. You can also, I'm just going to kind of move this to the side here outside of my artboard, you can also create outlines of the type. So if I go up under the Type tool and select Create Outlines, what that does is it actually transforms the type from being editable type to now an actual vector, right? That's manipulatable. And so, for example, I can select with the direct selection tool, I can select any anchor point within that makes up the vector of that letter, and I can essentially change the the form very easily by kind of manipulating that. So you can kind of see how the direct selection tool allows you to kind of stretch and mold in a very kind of it's as though that the type is now kind of pliable, or is you're able to sort of like bend it at your own wishes and manipulate those vectors by creating outlines. Okay, so I have here my editable text that I can change the word because it's created with the Type tool, and I can also create outlines of my typography so that it then behaves more like a basic shape, and I can then manipulate those mathematical lines using the selection, or especially the direct selection tool, which allows you to isolate specific vector points within those line segments that comprises the typography to be able to manipulate those forms. That ends this lesson. Thank you.